Hello, everybody. Please let me know if you can hear me. And if you can see my beautiful face. Okay, perfect. There we go. Good afternoon. My name is Tabiso Mohari, and I am the regional coordinator for the Sound Connect Fund. And thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Um, and the purpose of this session really is to assist you to better understand what the Sound Connect Fund is all about, and also how to apply, which documents are important, and also, most importantly, to give space for your questions and your comments as well, so that you can feel confident in being able to apply. So, we are going to try and spend as little time as possible going through the documents and allow for most of the session for your questions and comments as well. In the meantime, please feel free during the session to drop your comments and your questions into the chat box as well. Um, I'm sure one of my colleagues will be able to pick up those questions. Um, and then I think during the Q&A, you'll also be able to raise your hand and be able to ask any questions um, if possible. I think one of my colleagues, Katlaho, might make that possible. But if not, in the meantime, please feel free to drop them into the chat box and we'll get to them. Perfect. So I think um, without wasting any more time, I would like to get into the presentation itself um, and maybe start with the grant guide and share that. In terms of the documents themselves, I see already we have one comment in the chat box. All of these documents are available on our website. So please go to www.musicinafrica.net /SCF. I will put it into the chat box now. It's www.musicinafrica.net /SCF. The SCF is short for Sound Connects Fund. When you get on there, you will see an Apply Now button. You click on the Apply button and it will take you to the Apply page. I will also show you on my screen a little bit later in terms of where you can find those documents. But that website is your best friend, really, when it comes to all information that you need about the fund, being able to download all the documents that you need to fill out, and also information on how to submit those documents once they are filled out. Is that okay? Are we happy to start? Perfect. Let me then share the first document. Okay, perfect. So the first document is the grant guide. So the grant guide, the team and I have worked very hard to try and make it as comprehensive as possible, so that this is pretty much your one-stop shop when it comes to all information that you need about the fund, what criteria you need to follow, which documents you need to fill out, and all that. So what I'm going to do is go through probably the most critical sections in the document. Um, but like I said, it is available on the website for you to download and read through. It is important that you read through the whole document, that you understand all the criteria, and you make sure that your application is as watertight as possible to stand the best chance of being awarded the fund. Okay, so when you go through the document, obviously you'll see a table of contents. That's just a general guide to help you see where to find which sections of the document. And then in the beginning, then you'll get a quick overview of what the Sound Connects fund is about. And I think beyond us trying to grow, to accelerate development and grow the capacity of creative practitioners in Southern Africa, what we're really looking for is innovative ideas on how sound connects different creative sectors, on how sound connects different communities, different cultures, different languages. So it's really sound beyond just music. If you can think about the different genres that we have and how sound relates to them, it's easy to think around fashion, it's easy to think around animation in terms of the importance of sound plays in that aspect. But now it's also about being able to dream bigger and being able to experiment and say, look, what are the links that can we create using sound? What opportunities can we create under the same theme? What kind of development, what kind of sharing, networking, and new connections can we make? And your projects really should be designed around these aspects as well. So beyond just the creative output as well, but what elements are there for developing emerging artists, for example? What elements are there for creating new markets for your artists? Some of it could be developmental, building capacity, teaching them new skills. But really, if you start thinking around sustainability as well. So your projects need to be both as creative as possible, but also add value to the sector as well. I hope that makes sense. The countries that are eligible for this fund are Angola, Botswana, eSwatini, Lesotho, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. And what this means really is that our main applicants or the main applicant needs to come from one of these countries. They need to be registered and based and operating in any one of these countries. You can also consider collaborations across any one of these countries. So your project does not have to be just in your country, but it can also collaborate with any one of these other eligible countries, or also some countries that are not eligible as well. For example, South Africa. We have been getting a lot of questions around why South Africa is not eligible. And unfortunately, these are the rules that have been set by the funder. The funder, which is the ACP-EU, they have then given us this fund to manage and make available to creatives like yourself. So we follow their policies and their rules as well. So South Africa, unfortunately, falls into a different pocket of funding. Hence, they're not eligible to apply for this fund directly. But for the organizations that are in the eligible countries, you can consider partnerships with organizations in South Africa. There are some rules around that. For example, the organizations in the non-eligible countries cannot make a profit from this, and we're also encouraging you to try spend as much of the fund in the eligible countries as possible. When it comes to the eligible sectors, I mean, this is really a non-exhaustive list. Performing arts, animation, film, gaming, photography, videography, and visual arts. But really, you can push it as far as fashion. Consider all the sectors as well. So there are no limitations. It's really about how can you creatively link different sectors, or even if it's just you're just focusing on one sector, how creative can your project be within that sector? The rest here is just information, really, just around the sectors themselves and the forms of projects that we're looking to support. This you can read for yourself. And getting to the objectives and the focus. This is important because this is one of the core areas we will be scoring or evaluating your project proposals on. Ultimately, what we're trying to do with the Sound Connects Fund is to contribute to economic and social development of the creative and cultural sectors in Southern Africa. We also then want to accelerate development and increase capacity of players in those sectors as well. So when you design your projects, you then have to think around: does your project help the Sound Connects Fund achieve these two main objectives? And that is one area that will definitely put your proposal in a very good spot. And then our focus, we've got five focal areas to improve the capacity of creative professionals, leaders, and organizations, to enhance practitioners' contribution to the social and economic development of the cultural and creative sectors, to improve access to financing, to support the creation of high quality content, goods, and services, increase visibility, exchange, and access to key markets. So you can see this is quite a wide spectrum in terms of where our focus is, but ultimately all of them are interlinked. That at the end we're looking at a better capacitated industry, professionals who are producing better quality work, who have better access to markets as well, who have better access to financing as well. So I think this is the challenge, to say, does your project at the end, should you get the fund at the end of your project, would you have helped achieve or drive any of these focal areas? Perfect. And then now we get into the second call for grant applications. Just a quick overview: the call is currently open and it will be closing on the 15th of April 2020. Um, we have three main categories. Category A, which is 35,000 to 60,000 euros. These are for projects that are running for up to 8 months. So 6 to 8 months is ideal. And they should be implemented, let's say, between June of this year and the end of January next year. So this is our smallest category when it comes to our grant structure. Category B is 61,000 to 100,000 euros, and that's for projects running up to 12 months. And the implementation should be between June this year and June of 2023. And lastly, category C, 101,000 euros to 180,000 euros. And that is for projects running up to 18 months, so meaning from June this year until December 2023. So those are the three grant categories that you can apply for. And then, so our grant is a little bit different from others, that it's not just the financial support as well, but there's a capacity building program that is compulsory should you get awarded the grant. And the purpose of the capacity building program is to be able to assist and work with you and capacitate you as you deliver your project, so that one, you are able to deliver it the best way possible, that you're able to report on it as well, but that you're also learning new things as you implement your project, so that after your project is completed, you are in a better position as an organization and also as creative practitioners as well. So that capacity program, capacity building program, includes online learning. It also includes our annual grantees workshop, which happens over a week in one of the eligible countries. This year we had it in South Africa because of COVID travel restrictions, but then we brought 22 of our grantees from the first round for a week in Johannesburg, and it included learning, connecting each other, sharing, which is important, so that as you deliver your project, you also know that you are not alone, but you also have other grantees as well in the different countries that you can also tap into, that you can build with, learn with, and also possibly collaborate with in the future as well. So that capacity building program is quite important, and it also covers things like your monitoring and evaluation as well, to ensure that we can measure the impact of your project once you are done with it. Right, quickly covering eligibility. So the type of organizations that can apply for this fund, we've also tried to keep it as open as possible. So whether you're an NGO, a non-profit, an association, a closed corporation, a private company as well, or any other interesting structures, we are aware that we are operating across very different countries in Southern Africa, and a lot of them have very different forms of organizational structures, of registration structures, and operating structures as well. So, but I think there are very few structures that we will not. That are not eligible, and for example, those includes government organizations. But you can partner with them if you are a lead organization, because we do understand the capacity that they have as well. And then also religious organizations would be one type of organization that would not be eligible for this kind of funding. But I think we've tried to keep it as open as possible. As long as you're operating within the creative sector, you have a track record in the creative sector, you should definitely be eligible to register, to apply. I mean. Typical things to consider is that you must be legally registered in your country, and at least have a track record of at least 3 years on the day of application where you have been operating, and you can show what kind of projects you have been doing in the creative sector. We have covered the countries that are eligible, so I'll skip through that. Again, as mentioned, your project, in terms of your planned activities, they must happen in the eligible countries. So if you're applying, for example, from Zimbabwe, your activities must happen in Zimbabwe, or if you did apply to do a partnership with another country, it must happen in those countries as per your application. But it is definitely important that majority, if not at least 50% of the activities happen in the eligible country as well. Another important criteria is that the organization that is applying must have at least implemented one project in the cultural sector for at least the value of 50% of the grant amount that you're applying for. So let's say you are applying for €100,000, you must have at least in the past delivered a project successfully that is worth €50,000, and you can show us proof of that either through a project report or audited statements. And the reason for that is that we are not requiring that you have the 50% in your bank account. So if you're applying for €100,000, we're not saying that you must have €50,000 in your bank account to apply for the grant. What we're saying is that we really just want to see your ability to manage monies from external partners or sponsors that you were able to put into a project, and they were able to account for and be able to report on properly. And that's for us really just to gauge, because then that then lets us know that should you be awarded the grant, you will definitely be able to deliver on the grant and account for the monies entrusted to you. So all we are saying is that show us that in the past, if you're asking us for 100,000, in the past you have managed a project with at least €50,000. That's the idea or the thinking behind that. Another important key, I'm just going to skip through the others that you can read for yourself. As mentioned earlier, an organization can partner or collaborate with another organization from a non-eligible country, provided that there is no financial benefit to that organization as well. But I think in a lot of the times, you are able to cover, let's say, a typical example we use, let's say you wanted to take some artist and you have a partnership with a festival in Cape Town, and South Africa is a non-eligible country. But in you taking the artist to that festival in Cape Town, you have to book your flights with a South African airline, you have to book the hotels in Cape Town, and there will be some expenditure, let's say, for their per diems and other local costs as well. So that is allowed because those are unavoidable costs that you will have to incur in creating that opportunity for those artists. But it is clear that the big benefit is for the artist by them being able to go to that festival in Cape Town and being able to play there and connect with other artists and any other kinds of benefits. The only thing you can't do then is maybe pay that festival a management fee for hosting them in Cape Town. I hope that makes sense. We've covered capacity building and the importance of that. We've covered eligible countries. The primary areas of focus and the sectors, we've covered those. Right, so now just elaborating a bit on the primary areas of focus or the priority focus areas. These are 11 thematic areas or impact areas that your project needs to fulfill. So it could either fulfill one of them, or it could fulfill all 11 of them, or it could fulfill 5 out of the 11. But it has to, at a minimum, at least fulfill one of these impact areas. And I'll cover them quickly, and you'll be able to read further for yourself in the document. One being professional development programs for culture and creative sector practitioners. And these range everything from, business skills to workshops to production, but these are really looking at developing capacity. So whether you're teaching technical skills, writing skills, PR and marketing related skills, but these are looking at programs that want to improve the capacity and the knowledge of practitioners in the sector. And these could be for emerging practitioners, or these could be for professionals as well, in terms of their continuous professional development. And like I said, they can take form in, it can be in any form, whether these are workshops, these are master classes, residencies, or very technical learning programs. And they can be online as well, or they could be face to face, depending on what is practical. 2 programs that deliver incubation of talent and services in the performing arts. Again, the development of emerging CCI companies is important. So maybe you might want to run an incubator program where you want to train young entrepreneurs to be able to start and grow businesses in the creative and cultural sectors as well, cultural sectors. Or it could be an incubation program where there is a creative output. So we've seen in some countries where they run an incubation program and the output is an animation production like a film or a series. Some countries it's performances, it's a festival, and so forth. But these are about mid to long term incubation programs where you are capacitating either individual creatives or organizations for performance, for output, or for the future. The third one, programs offering more affordable and greater access to professional services and facilities. A typical example would be studio costs are very expensive in a lot of countries for emerging artists. So a project could be about making recording studio services more affordable or more accessible for emerging artists, either through some sort of an incentivized program or working with an existing studio to give access to more emerging artists. In some instances, we have seen organizations with existing buildings then build a studio from scratch and then run a development program where they teach young people how to record, how to write songs, and the full production spectrum as well. So other services could be around legal services. We know legal services are also quite expensive in the creative sector as well. So it could be about working with a legal firm and making those services more available. It could be about designing resource packs that you can make freely available to the creative sector as well. It could be classes where you bring in legal experts to come speak to young creatives or to creatives in general. So in terms of professional services, there really is no limit as long as it is necessary or needed in your sector. Number four, platforms that offer sustainable opportunities for showcasing quality products to wider audiences while facilitating rapid mobility of practitioners and exchange among practitioners. So, excuse me. Um, Again, these include things like festivals, these include showcase weeks, concerts, theater. Um, I think it's also become quite evident that with the impact of COVID, quite a lot of performance venues have had to close down, and we know that a lot of artists make some of their income and living from live performances as well. So, creating platforms for showcasing is quite important, and especially platforms that not just offer showcasing but also offer the creatives access to new audiences as well. Also, platforms that allow artists to travel. Um, for example, the example that I made earlier in terms of taking artists to a festival in Cape Town, or it could be any other country, or it could be within your country in a different province or a different part of your country as well. We know that with mobility, artists are able to meet new audiences, meet other artists. Some of them are even able to sell some of their merchandise and music directly or products directly to audiences as well. Number five, creation of platforms, digital and non digital, that offer long term awareness, discovery, and distribution of local products and services to local, regional, and global markets as well. Um, Ideas around that, for example, we've in South Africa, we've got one festival, it's a festival seminar called Music in Bizo. At Music in Africa, for example, we have the Access Festival, which happens every year. And all of these are really creative markets where different players from different parts of the continent and the world, from different sectors, are brought together for networking, for meeting, for exchanging, sharing knowledge, doing business as well, closing deals. So these are important platforms as well, where artists are discovered, where new ideas are shared and new information is shared as well. So some of these happen as physical activities, and some of them are hybrids where they happen physically and online as well. There's other non-physical platforms as well where artists meet, or where people who buy art can also meet artists, or artists can exchange as well. I think there's really, in a continent, if you think about, a lot of gaps around such platforms that are owned by creatives in the continent and are tailored for the needs in the continent as well. Number six, export focused initiatives to support distribution of cultural and creative sector goods and services from Southern Africa to regional, continental, and international markets. Again, here, this is the idea of being able to take products from your country, from your region, to the world. And this could include, I mean, products moving from your country to your neighboring countries, into your region, or internationally as well. This may include partnering with international platforms, whether they are festivals, whether they are trade fairs, whether they are online platforms. But there are, for example, a lot of European platforms that are looking for African art, African creative content to showcase, to also to sell as well. So you could be looking at building a platform that sells purely to an international audience, the best of what your country has to offer or what your region has to offer, and this can be across disciplines. So don't just think music, but there's, I think it's relevant to all the different sectors that we have. Seven, supporting business startups and organizations that are able to develop sustainable services. Again, this also speaks to similar models like your incubator programs. Creative entrepreneurship is an important avenue in terms of the creative and cultural sectors as well, and also building of platforms, whether those are apps or new publishing models or new ways to manage our intellectual property. Those become important, so that as we build the ideas, we are able to protect them, but we're also able to educate the creative sector on the value of those ideas and how to go about protecting them and offering platforms for things like that. So there are a lot of opportunities for businesses that offer such services, whether they are online based or um, purely services based as well. And then eight, development of cultural and creative education programs aimed at engaging young people in the sector. I think the development of emerging talent remains, an important aspect in terms of the future of the creative and cultural industries in Africa. So a focus on working with young people, getting them exposed to the creative and cultural sectors early, getting them to understand the sector early, getting them to start understanding work ethic, production, and knowledge around the creative sectors goes a long way in preparing them to be proper professional creatives that are also thriving and sustainable as well. Nine, research that creates awareness and understanding of creative economy opportunities, impact, and context while making it possible for practitioners and stakeholders to make informed decisions. I think for me, in my experience, research remains a very interesting and important area, purely because I think that it has been misunderstood for so long in terms of how we approach research when it comes to the creative and cultural industries, especially in sub-Saharan Africa and in Southern Africa as well. I think research is usually seen as this big body of work that is done by big academics or big audit houses and firms, which is also still important. But I think there are new ways or new methodologies for research that are quite impactful, that are fast and easy to turn around. They'll give you very nuanced data, data which is important for designing impact-based projects, for being able to respond quickly to what the sector needs. So I think there's a great gap and challenge for how we relook research. How do we present it is even a bigger challenge, because it's easy to collect all of this important and wonderful data, but how do you get the sector and people who need this information to actually engage with it and to read it and to be able to apply it in their strategies, in how they design opportunities for the sector. So I think research for me is another very interesting area for innovation. 10, creation of best practice based digital platforms that enable practitioners to learn about financing mechanisms and innovative technological approaches in the digital age. Again, online, another wonderful space in terms of app development, in terms of online space development, and especially when it comes to funding and financing for the creative sector. Last night we were speaking to um, uh, creative practitioners in Mozambique and Angola. And a lot of them, for example, were saying that a lot of the organizations are not big enough, have never managed the kind of funding that is needed for them to qualify for the Sun Connects Fund. And one of the ideas we said to them was that, if there is one organization that does qualify, then what they can do is create a sub-grant opportunity for all of the smaller organizations, using the very same sort of mechanism and framework that we are using for Sound Connects Fund. So they apply for a big fund and then they break it down into smaller grants, so that those organizations on the ground can access that, and they're able to work with them and teach them how to manage those fundings and make sure they're able to report properly as well. And that way they're building capacity and they're making them eligible for future funding opportunities as well. So there are many ways, to start breaking down and tackling lack of access to financing and creating opportunities for the sector using digital platforms. And then lastly, support for creators and artists by providing advice, tools, resources, and funding for them to start their own businesses. I think, again, this also then works with our push for creative entrepreneurship. There are a lot of skills and knowledge that is sitting outside of the creative sector, whether it's legal, whether it's marketing, whether it's IP and ideation, that we need for us to be able to thrive as practitioners or even as organizations in this sector. The same rules of business apply whether you're starting a creative business or a, um, a, a production or a oil-based production company. And I think there's a lot of skills that we can learn from the other sectors as well. So it's really about working with other organizations, tapping into their knowledge base, their systems, and be able to bring those tools and resources and skills closer to creative entrepreneurs so that they can then improve and grow and thrive in their businesses. Perfect. Just a quick overview of typical common non-eligible projects. This will include academic research projects. I think pure academic research projects that do not speak to the creative or cultural sectors obviously do not offer us any value. So for them, they would not be eligible. Scholarships and fellowships for studying and training courses, those are not eligible. Fundraising events, not eligible. Projects supporting political parties or religious faith, infrastructure projects that include the purchasing of land or buildings, except where deemed necessary for the direct implementation of the action. In all the cases, the ownership shall be transferred to the beneficiaries at the end of the action. So, in short, what that means is that if, for example, your project requires you to purchase a piece of land or construct a new building, and let's say you wanted to build a music studio or a dance studio, and that dance studio is directly linked to the project. This is where you're going to be training young people. This is where you're going to be showcasing um, at the end of the training and so forth. And this is where you're going to be able to show sustainability after the project because you'll be able to do so much more work. And you also then need to fill that building with equipment that you need to be able to train those young people to produce those animations or whatever products you're working on. Then you are able to motivate for such needs. And as they say at the end, that it is important that if you are awarded and allowed to purchase such things, that at the end of the project, those things stay with the organization. I make a typical example that maybe you purchase a new video camera specifically for the project. You do with it what is needed for the project. The videos are great, you submit, but now the project is done. And one of the directors then says, oh, well, I mean, we're not going to use this camera for the organization anymore, so I'll just take it home. So that is not allowed. Everything that is bought for the project through this fund must stay with the organization. Should the organization not be able to trade after the project, or the organization goes into insolvency or stops operating, then you must find another organization in your country to donate that equipment or that building or that land to, so that there is continuity. I hope that is clear. Language, that is easy, English, but for the first time we've also made it available for colleagues who might want to apply in Portuguese, but primarily applications must be in English. Just quickly covering the application process. So once, so now, just to again reiterating, to download all of the documents that are needed, please go to the website. There's the link there, musicinafrica.net/SCF. You will see apply now button. You click on that, and then you will see various tabs on that page. And if you click on the how to apply tab, you will see all of the documents that you're able to download. But I encourage you to please read through all of those tabs. Some of the information on those tabs is the same information that is in the grant guide, but in some places a little bit more simplified as well. So you download all of those documents, you fill them out offline, and then when you are done, then you'll be able to go back to our website on how to submit. You will find the click through button that will take you to our online application submission form. In there, you will fill in just a basic page of your important details and then attach all of your application documents and then click submit. There is a video of how to apply that is available that you can watch, and the link is available in this document when you download it. Just a quick overview of the compulsory documents for your submission. You're going to need the application form, which we'll go through just now. You're going to need the grant budget template, Annexure 1, which is also supplied. I'll go through it quickly. And then the other annexures, the legal identity form. That is important because we recognize that there are different forms of registrations in various countries. So besides you submitting your formal registration document, we also need you to please fill this out and get it stamped as well. Financial identification form. This will go with your banking document as well, so your letter from your bank. But it's important that you will then fill out this form and take it to your bank and get them to stamp it as well to confirm that your organization is operating and the bank account is active. And then there's a declaration of owner form that you fill out as a director and you stamp as well. Additional documents that you will then need to submit with your registration: proof of company registration, tax clearance. Please note that the tax clearance has to be for the year that you're applying in, and it has to be in good standing. If maybe in the month that you're applying, you notice that your tax clearance will be expiring in that same month and you have not received a new one from your tax authority, please do indicate with your application. And then it will be important that as soon as you receive your new tax clearance, that you do submit it. Latest stamped or audited financial statements, not older than 2 years. This is important. Again, this is proof of your organization as a going concern and that you are still operating. We do recognize that it has been difficult for organizations, especially in the last 2 years of COVID, in terms of operating. Some of them, for example, have not been able to afford to get full audited statements as they have been able to previously. Because in some countries it is expensive to get audited statements. What we do encourage is that then, if that is the case, submit the last audited statements that you had, and then any accounting records or account reports that your accountant or your finance manager would have created for you in the last 2 years of operating. So if there are no audited statements, then accounting records or accounting reports that are stamped by and signed by your accountant can then also suffice. We need your proof of bank account that goes with that financial declaration form. We need your company profile with a clear HR structure in terms of who is employed in the organization and what role do they play, so that we get a sense of your ability to deliver this project or the project that you're applying for. We also need a document with at least with examples of at least from the last 2 years. Excuse me. Again, take into consideration that we have not, a lot of organizations have not been operating in the last 2 years because of COVID. You can also use examples from other years as well. But the idea really is for you to show us that, look, we have been able to implement projects in the creative sector and have been able to report on them. Linda, I see your hand.
Yes, there are 2 questions here that I thought maybe you want to address before we go forward.
Yes, ma'am.
So there's a question from John. He's asking, is the requirement strictly proof of previous grant or proof of investment in the arts industry?
That is a very interesting one. I think we would need to unpack proof of investment. The idea that I think the idea behind the requirement is really for us to see if you've been able to manage funds from another donor or an external partner that were entrusted to you for a specific project, and you were able to use those funds for that project and be able to then report successfully after closing that project. So I think a previous project would be the easiest way, either through audited statements for that project or a project report that does show the outputs and also the financial management of that project. I think the jury does, take into consideration, for example, Annual income if the organization has received monies from various stakeholders over a year uh, for operation and maybe programming and project implementation as well. So where the organization does not have, let's say, one specific project that is worth that value, that 50% of the value they're applying for, then they could look at their annual management of monies that have come in from external partners or sponsors and how they've managed those across different projects and be able to then report and audit as an organization.
So John has just clarified. He's saying in this case, it's a limited company funds arts project, but not through a grant.
It is a, sorry, come again?
He's saying it's a limited company funds arts project, but not through a grant.
Oh, okay, no, perfect. No, so the monies received from other partners does not have to be specifically a grant. It could be pure sponsorship or any other forms. I think the idea is that someone or another organization took their resources and said, "Look, we entrust you with these resources to be able to implement this project," and you were able to do that and then report back to them.
There's also a question here, which does not directly link with what we're talking about now, but we can ask it. It's from Thomas. He's asking the evaluation and monitoring aspects. Are we allowed to use our organizational personnel to monitor and evaluate, or do we use SCF personnel, and how will it be costed?
Okay, perfect. So in terms of monitoring and evaluation, I mean, the go-to is you need to have in place a resource that will do your monitoring and evaluation. So if you have someone in-house, that is perfect. You add them in your HR costs because the expectation is that they are working on the project for the length of the project, right? That person then will then work with the SCF M&E team or M&E person um, in terms of the continuous monitoring, making sure they record the right data and they're able to input into the final reporting as well. So having your own person in-house is a definite yes. It's definitely recommended. And then they will then work with our service provider and our team, whether it's them getting training on the templates that we will require you to use to collect all of your data and the continuous capacity building program as well. But yes, please have somebody in-house that will then work with our team, and then you can add their cost to your HR cost. Okay.
That's it for now.
That's it for now. Okay, perfect. Happy to just go through the rest of this document and then maybe take a few questions after that before we move on to the application form and the budget template. We also will need 2 reference letters from previous funders or clients. These are really just recommendations or endorsements from people saying, we know this organization, this is what we've done with them previously, and we think that should they get this grant, they would be great at implementing and would do great work. Section D, quickly, just to give you an overview of the evaluation committee, which consists of 7 people. 5 are external CCI practitioners, and 1 is from Music in Africa Foundation, and 1 from the Kuta Institute as partners. If you want to see the profiles of our grant jury, please do so on the project website. We have their names and bios there as well. But it's quite a diverse and experienced grand jury. I think we have representatives from at least 5 of the countries that are eligible as well, and all of them are really seasoned and professional practitioners. Just a quick overview of the process that we follow. So after your application, our team then goes through the first step of criteria checks, looking at actually eligibility. Are you applying from the eligible country? All your documents in? Have you signed where you need to sign? Have you dotted where you need to dot? and crossed your T's. And then from there on, we start disqualifying we start eliminating any disqualified applications. And then we take it then through our internal vetting process, which then from there on, we then shortlist for the jury. After the shortlist is created, it's sent to the jury for the official scoring and adjudication. And some of the criteria they use for that includes quality and relevance of your project, sustainability of the project or the action, potential reach and impact, presentation, logic and clarity of the proposal, cost, value, and financial model. And consideration would also include aspects of innovation, originality, and inclusiveness, for example, with underrepresented groups. Typical reasons for disqualification. If you don't meet the eligibility criteria as stipulated in the guidelines, projects implemented outside of eligible countries only, provision of dishonest and inaccurate information. So it's important that you please give us as honest and as accurate information as possible. Incomplete submission forms, that's also important. Please make sure, like I said, you've completed all the information that's needed and you've signed and initialed all the documents. If you don't follow the format, we have seen, we've locked all the documents in essence, but we have seen people break out documents so that they can increase length where there are, for example, word limitations or where there are column limitations. People have broken those documents and created additional columns and all sorts of weird stuff. So we simply ask that you please stick to the format of the documents as they are. Late submissions as well will be disqualified. And then also applications that are sent via email or mailed to us. You'll be surprised that people have actually emailed us the application forms or posted them to us. Everything must go through the online submission form, and the link for that is available on the how to apply page on our website. That's just quick announcements of results, grant awarding. Just quickly trying to come out contracting and payment. This is important. That after the jury, we will then notify the provisional successful grantees, and that will be provisional because after we inform you, there's still a bit of due diligence that we'll still need to do. Verify some of your documents and make sure that you get a copy of the contract and you read that contract and everything is in order. And then once we sign the contract, then only then is your grant confirmed. And the grants will be paid out in various tranches. So for category A grants, there'll be 2 tranches because those are very short length projects, 6 to 8 months. So you will get your 80% on signing of contract and fulfillment of admin requirements, so all the due diligence that we'll need to go through. And then, you will then be given time to go implement your project, again, with the support that's required. And then you will then submit your final report. And then, only then, will you get your final 20%. So again, it's important that you as an organization, when applying, ensure that you do have 20% of what you're applying for, at least, and in liquidity, to know that you'll be able to pay for those costs to complete your project and then claim that 20% after you submit your final project report. So this is the only instance where you would need to ensure that you have some liquidity for the implementation of the project, but it will be just for that 20% because we would then expect you to complete your entire project and then submit final report, and then we would then pay you the final 20%. Category B and C, both of them have 3 payment tranches. So you will get 50% on contract signing and then 30% on project milestones. What that means is that you will then look at your project and say, I've received the first 50%. This is how far it will take me. So maybe it will take me 3, 4, 5 months. After 5 months, I will then need the next 30%. And then that is where then you will do your tranche reporting. So then you will say, from the 50% you've given me, this is what I've done with it. Here is the evidence. And then now I need the next 30% to be able to do these following activities and complete the project. And then once you have then given us that report, that mid-project report, we sign it off. We then advance you the next 30% that allows you then to do your project until it's complete. You then submit to us the final project report, and then once it's been accepted, we then pay out your last 20%. I hope that makes sense there. Like I said, this means to avoid cash flow challenges, the grantee should be able to advance up to 20% of the requested grant amount. Just a quick audit requirement. All project reports shall be audited by an independent auditor for the entire action. And also, just to put some clarity around that, our responsibility is to audit the funds that have been granted to you. So it doesn't mean that we will be auditing your whole organization and other projects that you are working on. So you will see once, or should you be successful, the kind of reporting and supporting documents and templates that we will provide to you make it very easy for you to account as you implement the project, specifically for these funds that you have received, as you receive them in different tranches as well. That is also, again, to make it easy for you to be able to separate this expenditure from any other projects that you as an organization are working on. So our auditors will then be looking at purely the expenditure that is attached to the grant that we've given you and to the project that you said you would then implement. So please don't look at it as a full audit on your organization. And like I said again, we will have a support system in place to make sure that you have recorded all the data that you need. We will have an audit and bookkeeping assistant who will be able to work with you ahead of submitting your final financial reports to make sure that everything that you need is in place. And lastly, just being able to contact us, I think, at any time should you need support with the application process or need any other clarity. Yes, Linda.
Sure. So we have a question regarding the reference letters, the 2 reference letters that need to be submitted.
Yes, ma'am.
Thomas is asking, he's pretty much asking about the date on the reference letter, because he's saying one of the reference letters is from OSISA, and OSISA has gone through a restructuring, and therefore they don't have the contact anymore, and it would be hard to get a recent reference letter. Can they still use the 2019 reference letter that they got?
I'm sure they can. That should not be a problem, but I would also then advise them to also try get recent ones, or at least, from as recent projects as possible as well. But yeah, there isn't really a limitation in terms of how old your letter can be. I mean, if it's 15 years old and your organization has not done anything between then and now, that's a bit alarming. But I think, yeah, with COVID, it's understandable that there might be a lag in the last 2 years.
Okay, and then there's a question here from Gertrude. We've covered this, but I think she came in a little late. She's asking if individuals are eligible to the grant, and if an organization has never been funded before but wishes to apply for this particular grant, is that doable?
Okay. Unfortunately, individuals are not eligible. You have to be an organization, a registered organization. If an organization has not received grant funding before, again, the ask is, have you received any other kind of money from any other external partner that you have delivered on? If, for example, that is a no, everything has been self-funded going forward, or up to this far, then do consider partnering with another organization, maybe that has the track record, that has managed external grant or sponsorship monies before, and you can go into some sort of a partnership to deliver this project. We do encourage joint ventures, associations, or any kind of partnership where small organizations or small organizations who might not be eligible come together and really put forward a strong case to say, look, from this, we'll be working, for example, with an audit firm that will make sure that the accounting of the money is in order. And at the same time, they'll be capacitating us also to manage funds of this size through workshops, through master classes, through financial training and admin systems and so forth. So I think there is an opportunity for organizations who might not be eligible based on criteria to look at how they might be able to fulfill that criteria through partnering with other small organizations or other professional organizations in other disciplines or professions.
That's it for now.
Okay, perfect. So that is our grant application guide. I'm going to stop sharing this for now. Also, just wary of time. Like I said, the idea is to give you as much time as possible to answer questions. What we'll look at now is the application form quickly, just to give you a sense of what it looks like and what you need to navigate. Okay, perfect. So this is what the application form looks like. Um, as you will see, there are sections that you are able to fill in, and other sections are locked as well, and there are word and character limits on most of the sections. The idea is also to help you sort of distill your project ideas and make them as concise as possible, and to give us only the most important information. But yeah, while giving us as much detail as possible. So you'll see typical things you need to put in: request a grant size. You'll get a drop-down list, and you can select the category that your grant falls within, or the amount that you're asking for falls within, and you can select any one of those. Name of organization that you'll be able to fill in there. So you'll see you'll be able to fill the stuff. Company registration there, date of registration, entity. So the type of entity, whether private, NPO, association. If not any of those, you can select other and then just fill in the type of organization that you are. Country of registration, address. So these are really just the most important information about your organization. Online platform, this could be your website. In cases where you don't have a website, you can also put in your blog or social media information and there as well. If you have a Music in Africa profile, please put it in there. If not, you are encouraged to go to our website, musicinafrica.net, and set up a profile for your organization. I think it's a great resource to have either way in terms of being able to connect and meet other creative practitioners and organizations within the continent. And then most importantly, a contact person for your organization. So this is the person who we can contact with regards to this application and with regards to any other additional information that you might need. So as much as it might be good maybe to delegate this to your admin assistant, I think it would be worthwhile for the contact person to be somebody quite senior in the organization who might be privy to important information and documents that are needed for this application. And then here you can put in a brief organizational profile besides the one that you're going to attach with your HR structure. Here's just information of the directors or the shareholders of the organization, their names, what they do, their gender, and the number of years in the organization. So this is only people who are on the organization's registration documents. Not employees. There's a section for that. Here, project details. Most importantly, your project name, the sector. You'll see there's a drop-down list. You can select which sector you are in. If it's others, you can select others and then specify. So, for example, if you are using or blending music with theater and fashion and so forth, you can put under others, then just list the different disciplines and genres that you're including in your project. Project duration date, when you expect your project to start, or project length, when do you expect it to start, when do you expect it to end. It doesn't have to be specific dates, it can be the months, those will suffice. And then project locations, which country and city is happening in, or it can be virtual as well. If you have more than one location, then you can just list your locations there. Focus areas, mentioned earlier that your project can concentrate on one or all 11 of these. So this is just a click box that allows you to click as many as you need that are relevant to your project. And then project description, you'll see maximum 1,200 words, but here really is the gist of what your project is about, what it intends to do, who is going to benefit, and what is the magic about your project that makes it deserving of this grant. And then project outcomes, those include key activities and impact that will be achieved. So this could be a list of the things that you're going to do, which are the key impact things, or some of the key outcomes that you're going to achieve with this project. So for example, we will have professionals better capacitated to be able to produce high quality work, or we're going to have a festival at the end. But these are really like the tangibles that you are going to achieve with your project. And we're just looking for 5 there. You might have more. Project beneficiaries. We view project beneficiaries, and also again, if you read that grant guide, there's a more explanation on that, or broad explanation on that. But project beneficiaries are people who will be impacted by your project and its activities. I think outside of just your own implementation staff. So this could be the creative that you work with directly, who are coming into your program to learn, to participate in various activities. These could be the service providers who are in the creative sector that you are using for some of your services to deliver this project, or the raw materials, or whatever you need for the project. And also this could be the audiences or the consumers that come to the events and buy the art or buy the creative output as well. So this could cascade down from people that are directly benefiting from your project in terms of empowerment, right down to people who come and buy some of the output or attend some of the activities that you will be hosting. Impact and sustainability. We've given you 6 areas for you to think about in terms of what your project does impact on, and how sustainable is it going forward. So including things like improving the capacity of professionals, of creative professionals, enhancing their contribution, improving their access to financing, supporting the creation of high quality content, increased visibility and sustainability in the sector. And again, these speak back to some of our focal areas as well. Implementation plan. Now, this is very important, because once we have an idea of what your project is about, what it intends to do, who intends to benefit, and what the magic is about your idea, we now need to understand how feasible is the implementation of your project. And I think your implementation plan is what will go a long way in giving us that picture and us understanding that this is well thought out and everything you have proposed is feasible. So we're looking for a summary, a quick summary in terms of how you intend to approach your implementation plan. If you're working through partnerships, if you've got enough capacity in-house, what kind of skills and services you'll be considering for that. Are there any empowerment considerations in that? Will be any marginalized groupings or previously marginalized service providers you'll be looking at as well. But it's really just your implementation strategy in terms of how you're going to implement and capacitate your implementation. And then the schedule is your key activities that you'll be implementing to make sure that the project happens. And this includes from planning to your marketing and PR, to your actual activity implementation, reporting, and things like that. So really think about your timeline and the key things that you want to put in here to give us a picture of the many steps or the steps that you're going to follow in implementing your project. And then communication strategy and plan. Again, this is thinking about your audiences. Who are you going to reach? Who are you going to impact? Both through your activities directly and also as people who consume or buy creative outputs. So think about your target audience in terms of their gender, location, age as well. You can also have an opportunity to elaborate on your communication strategy and plan, like you did with your implementation plan. This is about telling us about the kind of tools you'll be using, for your communication strategy, why you're using those tools, the kind of audiences you'll be reaching, if there's any new audiences, why, but really, what is the clever approach that you will be taking with your communication strategy? And then again, putting in the key activities that you'll be implementing or following to make sure that your comp strategy is implemented successfully. Project audience reach. These are your projected numbers. So you're saying, yay, we've got this great project that we are going to implement, and we think these are the numbers that we are going to reach through the project through various activities and project communication activities. So the number of audiences, this goes again from cultural and creative practitioners. These are people who are participating in your activities, who are coming to the workshops, who are being empowered, who are being trained, who are the primary beneficiaries. And then audiences for cultural events. Again, these are people who would come to the music shows that you're doing, who would come to the fashion shows, who would buy the creative output. Even, this can go far as TV, radio, and other broadcast platforms. There's people also to be reached through digital platforms. So how many people do you expect to reach through digital platforms, both creatives and the broader audience sector? Online and social media reach, the different platforms there. So if you have a website for your project, how many unique visits are you expecting? If you're going to have a YouTube platform, you're going to put videos there, content views and followers that you're expecting, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the same as well. So these are some of the tools that maybe you'll be using to promote your activities and increase visibility for your project as you implement it. So it's important to then record those numbers. So at this stage, you need to project and say, these are the kind of numbers that we think we'll be able to do based on our current platform numbers and the impact that we think the projects will have. And then traditional media as well. So as your press releases go out, or you invite journalists to your different activities, what are you forecasting the numbers will be there? And then if there's any other new media that we might not be aware of, or other platforms that you have that are not listed here, you can then just elaborate in terms of what those platforms are and the numbers that you expect to reach through those platforms. And then at the bottom, there's the total budget for the project. So this you would fill in after you had then worked through your application budget template. You would then put in your total amount. And then here, total amount requested. This is how much you are asking us for. Mm-hmm. So in most cases, these two will be the same. Unless if, for example, your project is over and above what the grant offers. So for example, your project is worth 250,000 euros. And you are asking us for 180,000, and then you can then let us know then in terms of any other contributions how much those are worth to be able to cover that entire 250,000. But if your project is 180,000 euros and you are asking us for 180,000 euros, then you just put in those amounts there and you put 0 at the bottom there. Hope that makes sense. And then monitoring and okay, Linda, I see your hand before we move on.
Yes, just on that point, there's a question here. Can we confirm that there is no requirement for matching funds, i.e. SCF is happy to fund 100% of the project fund requirements, assuming it falls within the category limits of the grant itself?
Yes. ACF is happy to fund 100% of the requested amount, provided it's within the category limits. As I said, only if your project is worth more than what you're applying for do you then have to then show us proof of additional funding. And that additional funding must have been secured already um, by the time you apply.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. And then under monitoring and evaluation, again, the idea here just to get a sense of the kind of monitoring and evaluation your organization has done on previous projects and your ability ability to do monitoring and evaluation and your understanding of monitoring and evaluation. So just the two questions here, just your approach on what you think you will do for M&E for this for your project specifically for this application, and then also just examples of how you've approached M&E in the past. This could be an M&E report, could be a data sheet from a project that you have done previously, showing us how you approached M&E and reported on that. Section F is your project team. What is important here is that this is where you list people who will be working on the project, ideally from the beginning to the end of the project. So this will be your core implementation staff. So outside of your directors that you've put in at the top there, who are the actual owners of the organization, here it's about the project team that will be working specifically on this project. So this could be a project manager, your marketing manager, technical manager, and so forth. You put in the roles here. Some of the people can already be people that are already in your organization that you have employed and you are now assigning them to work on this project. And some of them can be new hires that you're bringing in specifically for the implementation of this project. You don't need to list temporary hires on this section. And then, right. At the end is just confirmation that you have managed at least 50% of what you're asking for. So just the tick box, project name, project budget, and donor's name if applicable. And then that will go with the supporting documents that we asked for as well. And then finally is just your checklist. Again, this is just to help you make sure that you have everything that you need. There are 12 documents all in all that you will need to submit. So this is the checklist that you can use and you can just tick through all of them. And then just final signatures, and then getting two witnesses to sign. This could be two witnesses within the organization, but these are just people saying that they can confirm that the information in this application form is correct. And then also please could you initial all of your application pages as well, and then a signature on the last one. So that's the application form. Quite quickly, any questions here before we just look at the budget and then maybe use the last half an hour then for Q&A? Linda, on your side, any questions?
No questions on my end. Doesn't look like there's anything in the chat box.
Perfect. Please excuse my sniffles. I have a flu, and yeah, I'm recovering, but it's happening slowly. Okay, perfect. So this is our application budget template. This is also another one of the important documents that you will need to fill out with your application form. All of them are important, but I think, yeah, without this one, really, it's an automatic disqualification. So you'll see that the document itself, some sections are locked, some sections are self-calculating, like these sections up here for the totals, but it does allow you, then to input both descriptions and actual values um, across these sections, which are then auto-calculated across these sections here. So as long as you put in the units and the values here to be able to auto-calculate across, and then here are the descriptions. We have broken the budget section down into various sections. You are not allowed to add any new sections or any new lines or columns to this document. Like I said, it will be locked except the parts where you are able to enter data. You will see each section comes with percentage recommendations. I will speak through those. And then there's also additional tabs around some of the financial control rules and policies as well that are important, which we'll get to just now. So quite quickly, for example, budget section A, at the top we've got human resources. This is fixed at maximum 40%. So it doesn't mean that you have to use up all 40% of your budget, but you can go up to 40% of your total budget. You can spend that on human resources. And again, besides the information up here, like your organization name, project name, you will see there's a drop-down list for the sector. You can choose a sector, and then there's a drop-down list for the amount that you're applying for as well. And you can just fill those out. And then here, let's say you wanted to put the project manager. You can just enter project manager. The frequency, we are paying them per month. So you would select per month. And number of units, we are running a 12-month project, so it will be 12 months. And we want to pay them 1,000 euros every month. And then you will see then how it auto-calculates the rest of those sections. And then this is how then you would then fill in, again, all of the rest of your HR planning for this. It's important that you don't put in any of your temporary hires here. So if you're using, for example, production assistants for a day or people that are coming in for a couple of days only, don't put them in here. You can put them in other costs section, which I'll show you just a little bit later. But here it's really people who will be working on the project long term or from the beginning to the end of the project who are critical to the delivery of the project. Perfect. And then the next section is travel. We've put 7% recommendation. Again, that's a recommendation. Should your project be travel heavy, you are more than welcome to then propose more than the 7%. But again, it has to be justified by the activities and the project output as well. And here it will be the same thing. So here, for example, will be like your flights. If you are booking flights to another country or within country, it will be per item. It will be one unit, let's say maybe, and the flight costs 300 euros, and then that's how you would record. You would record your travel stuff. As you will see, we'll start working out your percentages as well for you, just to give you a sense of how much you've spent on each budget section. And then the next one is equipment and supplies, a recommendation of 5%. But again, if you need more equipment and supplies for your project, that could be increased, or you can put them under other costs as well. And equipment and supplies, this can go as far as, computers that you need or equipment that you need for your project specifically to produce creative stuff or for people to be able to work with. We have, as you'll see, limited the number of rows you have for filling in, and the idea is also for you to try and consolidate as many of your costs under one subheadings or line items as possible. So, for example, if you say equipment, you wanted to buy computers, you wanted to buy, let's say, 5 computers, you would not list all 5 computers here as individual entries, but you would just have one line item that says computers, and then you'd have then the amounts there. So the idea is for you to try and consolidate as much of your common cost as possible. And then local office, 5%. This has to do with cost for your local office, necessary for the implementation of the project as well. But again, should it be more, please feel free to increase that. This could include your rent, for the office, tables and chairs and stuff that you need in that office for the delivery of the project. Marketing and PR recommended to 6%. If you need more, you can put it under cost and services. But this is pretty much for anything that has to do with design of your posters, collateral, or CI for this project specifically. If you need to print things, if you need to purchase advertising or boost posts or do online advertising. But this is really all of the activities that would fall under your marketing and PR or visibility of your project. Linda, I see a raised hand. Should I stop here?
Yes, please. There's a question from MMX asking, can we confirm that the financial budget template for this application window is identical to the last one, or have there been changes?
The only difference from the last one is that there are now percentage recommendations and fixed percentages as well. Whereas with the first one, we were still trying to get an idea of post-COVID, what do the creative and cultural industry organizations and players need? Do they need more equipment? Do they need more professional services? So the only fixed section we had with the first one was with indirect costs, which is a EU standard of 7%. And then using then the data from the first call, we then came up with then these fixed and recommended percentages. That is really the only difference. Okay, perfect. And then other cost services, there we've got a recommendation of 30%. And that is important because anything that you have that does not fall squarely or nicely into any of the sections, you will then put under your other costs and services. So for example, with HR, we did say any of your temporary hires, you don't put under HR, you would then put them under other costs and services as temporary hires. And again, you don't have to do all of them as individuals. You can just have one line item that says temporary hires, and then you can work out your units and your unit amounts there. If there's any additional costs for equipment or anything that is really doesn't fall into any of the above sections, then other costs and services is your friend. Could be things like legal services that you need could go in there as well, and any other professional services. And then indirect costs at 7%. This one is fixed, so it can't be more than 7%. And this would be what traditionally would be considered a management fee or an agency fee. But because this is a grant, the organization cannot be seen to make a profit. But there's also an understanding that there are some costs that you incur as an organization in the implementation of this project. And those could be things, for example, like recruitment costs when you need to hire people for this project. You're buying sanitizer, So all of those small overheads that you would incur would then fall under 7%. And this is money. Should you get the grant, this will be money that is then your organizational money, so you would not need to even list what you're doing with it there. So this you can leave empty and just have the total amount of what the indirect costs are, because we're not really concerned about what you use those indirect costs on. That is money that we assume will cover any indirect costs that you incur while implementing this project. So that is the budget template. You will see there's additional notes as well that you need to read. And then eligible costs. Again, this is important to read through what is considered eligible costs, eligible direct costs as well. So this is what that section, the last section, the 7% can cover. Indirect costs, indirect costs, this is what the 7% covers. And then eligible direct costs, these are stuff that has to do with the project itself. In-kind contributions explained, and then volunteers work as well explained. And then non-eligible costs, this is just a short list of what is considered non-eligible costs. This will be important to read through and make sure that you budget accordingly. And then this is the per diem policy as set by the EU. So if in your project you then need to be paying per diems for artists or some staff members, you need to follow this per diem policy. And in the EU's policy when it comes to per diems, it covers accommodation, meals, and local travel. So to give an example, if they say Angola, it's 378 euros you have per day, you then as an organization would then say, from the 378, we will use 150 for accommodation, we will use 30 for travel, and we will use the remaining 80 or so as then meals. So you will then break that down. If you already have an existing per diem policy in your organization and it's lower than these set amounts, then you're encouraged to carry on using your existing per diem policy, but as long as it's not higher than these set amounts. Right, so any questions on the budget section? But that will be the last document that we're looking at. That is important. And then I'd be happy then to spend the rest of the time dealing with questions and providing clarity. Linda?
There are no questions in the chat.
Oh, does that mean that everybody is all clear? They are excited about applying. There are no issues. Is that what I'm hearing? I mean, that is good news. I would definitely be happy with that, because then I can look forward to very exciting applications. Okay, we're going to share the Excel templates. Like I said, all the documents, the ones that I've gone through, plus the additional annexures that you will need are available on the website for download. So it will be better that you please download the entire pack there. So maybe what I can do quickly is maybe show you the website. So maybe, let me do this. Let me share my screen again. Perfect. So if you go to www.musicinafrica.net/SCF, then this is the page that you arrive on. And you will see with this page, it's all about the Sound Connects Fund, all the information about the fund. Here at the top, it says Apply Now. When you click on the Apply Now button, it takes you to this page. And you'll see this is even more comprehensive information about the fund with different tabs there at the top that you can click on. If you scroll down and start reading, you will see under Key Information, there are various tabs. So available grants, eligible entities, how to apply, evaluation process, required documents. There's also the Portuguese pack as well. So these are important to read through, like again, just reiterating the different grant categories, who's eligible and so forth. How to apply, the important one. So this is where you will then find the documents that you need to download with additional information. But here are the documents. How to apply, the grant guide, common application mistakes booklet that we've collected from the previous call to help you avoid some of the mistakes made in the previous call. We've got the application form, we've got the budget template, we've got the legal entity form, we've got the financial identification form, and we've got the declaration of honor form. So this is where you then download all these documents and then you fill them in offline. And then when you're ready then to submit, you come back here and you click submit application. If my internet can just behave. And then this is what you will see. So this is your application submission form. Again, you will put in your project name, your grant size, location. All of this stuff is already in your application documents. Name of organization and so forth. Date of registration, email. And then it will ask you to then add the different documents that you have filled out. So from the form itself to the grant guide, to the budget template, legal identity form, declaration of honor, tax clearance, so registration form, tax clearance, audited statements, HR structure, company profile. So all of the documents that we've asked for, you can then upload them here, attach them here. And then some click boxes, for example, with the compulsory learning program, so the capacity building program, that is compulsory. So you have to subscribe for that or click on that. And then if you've got any learning areas that you are interested in, that you'd want our capacity building program to focus on, you can then click any of those or others and then elaborate if it's not listed there. And then would you like to subscribe to our monthly newsletter? You just click yes. And then this is just our data protection clause to say that everything that we collect is being treated according to EU standards. It's being stored safely and only authorized people have access to it. And we'll be using it for the purposes of this grant and processing grant applications. Yeah, and that after everything has been done, that we will either destroy or secure that information safely. And then you just click on that, and then you click your submit. It will not allow you to submit unless you have attached all of the relevant documents and filled in all of the required sections as well. So in a nutshell, that's what the submission document looks like. And then this is where you find all of those documents that you need to download and read through. I hope I've made sense.
Tabiso,
Yep.
someone is asking, or rather saying, the English forms are not giving me the download tool except the Portuguese pack. Can you just show that again?
Okay, perfect. So they're not seeing this icon. Is that what they're saying? Because
I think that's what they're trying to say, because they're saying it's not giving me the download tool except the Portuguese pack.
So I'm able to download. You either click on that icon or you click on the document name itself, and then you should be able to open it, either download it directly or open it in a different tab where you can then save. Like I've just downloaded one now. So if I click common application mistakes, it opens in a different tab, and then I can save it. Or on some, depending what browser you're using as well, some of it then is an automatic download. See, like this one is an automatic download on my browser, which is the second call.
Yeah, Tabi, so I suspect maybe it's an issue on Daniel's side, because Colin has just said that they can do it and it downloaded automatically. Daniel, if you're still having issues after this, please contact us and we can talk you through it again.
Okay, perfect. If you have any other questions or challenges, please do feel free to email the team, and Linda will share the email in the chat box there, and we'll be happy to assist in any way possible. Please also spread the word if you know of another organization that's wanting to apply but we're not able to attend today. We will have this session available on our Facebook page for you to watch again. But each one teach one. So if you know somebody who needs help and you have a better understanding after the session, please, we encourage you to sit with them, explain to them what you know. Yeah, and also collaborate where possible. It's not it's not the easiest fund to apply for when it comes to criteria, but also as you can imagine, it's quite big amounts as well. So there's quite a lot of protocols and due diligence and risk mitigation that has to be put in place. But we do encourage collaborations and people helping each other as well. If there are no more questions or inputs, then I'd be happy to close this session here. It's been an hour and 45 minutes, which has not been bad. I thought it would take longer, but I think we've done the most important work. Thank you very much to my team for all your support in setting this up. Thank you everybody for joining this session. Like I said, please spread the word, share the information. We are looking forward to very exciting applications and even more exciting projects should you get awarded. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the afternoon and the rest of the week.